And welcome to our off-season veranda, to our off-season bungalow, to our
Veranda.
off-season gazebo.
So we're letting people outside the house now.
Yeah,
They don't
we're
have to
we're
be inside.
I'm just picturing people arriving and we have this wonderful veranda. You can sit on the porch, grab a cold drink, talk some hockey. No need to
Uh,
go inside. It's summertime.
No
But
need
if
to
you
go inside.
if you need to use the bathroom, by all means, we have a bidet. But
Whoa, we're fancy here, I guess.
yeah, this is off to a rollicking start. I couldn't
Yeah,
just. I thought bungalow might be the best because it's like bungalow. You think like poolside,
yeah.
but I went with the volume approach.
I mean, you could have just gone with the fact of like saying something like, "We invite everyone to our backyard pool."
Backyard pool, yeah. Backyard barbecue.
Backyard barbecue, backyard pool. I mean, no sleeves are required at this backyard barbecue.
Ugh,
Drinks can be in hand.
I don't know about the
It
sleeve part.
it's the off season. Sleeves aren't
Yeah,
required.
fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, so once again, off-season pod, off-season mode. But I feel like we did a good job last week. I feel like I actually listen back to the podcast as I do sometimes.
Wow.
You know,
I
it's I liken it to studying game tape. You gotta study your tape. You gotta see where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and proceed from there.
okay. Well,
I don't do that often, by the way. I just want that to be very clear. There's like there's a level of like self absorption that may be implied there, and that's
you
not where I'm going with that.
you want to let that be known. Yeah, we're fully in off season mode right now.
Yeah, I have a question for you to start this podcast.
Okay.
What have we learned from these NHL playoffs,
Ooh.
and by virtue of that, what have we learned about the Ducks from these NHL playoffs? Even though the Ducks have not played any hockey these playoffs, what have we learned for this team?
What have we learned about the playoffs? Um, I think that this we've known this for a while, but I think these playoffs more than any others have confirmed it that it is a strong link sport.
Hmm.
That there's a lot of, and maybe Dallas is the only anomaly to this, but I think that might be selling short their superstars. But I feel like a lot of times the depth players are the ones that really get the glory come playoff time, not necessarily the stars. People say because it's a team sport, you need the depth on your team, you need the good bottom six guys, the good bottom pairing guys, and well, sure, you want to have a good deep team. At the end of the day, it's been proven that hockey is a strong link sport, that you need the high end talent. You can't just have a bunch of middle guys and necessarily continually win off of that. And I think what we're seeing this playoffs is that every single team that has made it this deep has done it with some of their top guys going. Like, I mean, the Oilers wouldn't be this far without Draisaitl and McDavid going, obviously. Um, Maybe the Stars, but they still have had young guys in Wyatt Johnston. Like they're maybe the only ones that don't fit that mold. But the Rangers with Zibanejad having the playoffs that he's been having,
Lafreniere.
Lafreniere, and I mean the Panthers just with Kachuk now going off and Barkov having a great playoffs. Like you're seeing that you need to have stars, you need to have high end talent on your team in order to win. And maybe that sounds like a no shit Sherlock type situation, but that's sometimes questioned, I think, by some pundits, by some plaudits out there when discussing the playoffs and what you need to win. And what we're seeing is that you need that high end talent.
Yeah, I think that that's a good point, that you need the high end talent. And I think that the word need is particularly appropriate because it feels like to be a Final Four team, you have to have a at least a tandem of star talent forwards typically, just as a price of admission, just to have a chance to get in through the door. To be allowed into that postseason home, not the offseason home. And but on the flip side, though, and I think this is something that we're learning about the Ducks. I think what we're learning about this Ducks team is that they are both closer than we think and maybe a little further away than we think. So I think on one hand, what you were just saying, I think the Ducks may already have that.
Yeah.
I think that the top end talent part of the equation, which is the part that you have to tank for, basically, that you have to rebuild for, they have acquired it. Leo Carlson is solidly in that conversation. And then you basically just need one of the rest of the young forwards to come to that level. Whether it's a Cutter Gauthier, whether it's a Trevor Zegras, whether it's McTavish, whether it's Terry, you just need one of those guys to come along for the ride, and you have your tandem. So
Yep.
I think that they have that. I think where we're seeing, and you could even throw in some of the defensemen, because I think like Miro Heiskanen, for example, is part of that
That
conversation
is
for
that's
Dallas.
a great point, and someone I left off when you're talking about the Stars of having the high
Yeah,
end talent.
but
Miro
I think that
Heiskanen's,
but the forward
yeah,
talent is necessary. I
yeah,
would agree with that, but I think that also to be a team that starts to separate and to not only have the chance to win a round or two, or even to win an Eastern Conference or Western Conference final, but to actually go to the Stanley Cup final, potentially win, I think you need the depth. And what we're seeing from a team like the Stars, and I would argue also the Panthers, is that they have great depth.
hmm
And like the Stars are doing it a different way with their young players, but I think that's the part of the equation that the Ducks don't have yet. They just don't have the depth. If you look at their forwards this season, you could see it very clearly. And going into next season, it becomes a question mark. But I do think that they are closer. Like that part of it, I think is a little easier to sort out than the first part.
sure, and that's kind of where I'm getting at with the strong link part of it is that
Yeah.
you need depth, sure, but I think having the high end talent is more so the bigger need. You can find those guys on the fringes to help you out. You can make those moves there. Um, but finding that high end talent is the most important thing to build a contender. And that is what kind of what you said. The Ducks have that. The Ducks have built that. They just need probably one more, whether it's this third overall pick, whether, I mean, Zegras, we both think is going to have a breakout season this year, whether it's a Cutter Gauthier, whether it's Troy Terry, like you said. Like, there are a bevy of talent that could hit that and become that for the Ducks team. And then you also have the defensemen. And then you also potentially have some really good goalies in the system also. And so I think that the framework is there if you look at how all these teams have built their team and how they are winning, maybe outside of the Stars because they're a little bit different. But the framework is there for the Ducks to become one of these teams over the next couple of years.
And I think another part of it too, that outside of just having depth, is that I'm really looking at the Stars to me as kind of a model. And I think that in a way the Panthers have a little bit of this too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even I'll throw in the Rangers, even the Oilers. They all have this to some degree. Is this kind of like second layer of young drafted talent that comes in to supplement the team? So like in 2021, the Dallas Stars drafted Wyatt Johnston at 23rd overall, home run right now. Logan Stankoven, 47th overall,
Mm-hmm.
home run of a pick. But then in 2019, they drafted Thomas Harley at 18th overall, and he's now contributing in the playoffs. Like that's looking
Mm-hmm.
like a great pick. And that's three guys over a 5-year drafting window. Like that's still not a lot of players. And yet I think that that's what you're going to look for now with the Ducks, is all these other guys that they're drafting outside of the first round or late in the first round. How many of those guys can come in and become that kind of next wave that
And
you weren't expecting?
well, I think that's kind of what we're seeing. Maybe we are expecting it now with these guys, but I think Zellweger was a second round pick.
Yeah, fair.
Tristan Leno was a second round pick. Like we are seeing that with these waves of guys. Hell, a little bit different with age, but Troy Terry would be be in that consideration. Yeah, Jackson Lacombe. Like the Ducks have that second wave right now. They have the high end high first round picks, and then they also have the depth players that are starting to come in and starting to make a bit of an impact. So I think that your point is there, but I don't think it's something that the Ducks necessarily need to focus on, because I think this is a whole side tangent from the conversation we were just having, but I think the Ducks are starting to get to the point where they can say screw it with their picks. In the sense of, if a player comes along that makes sense to trade for, you don't covet your picks over that player, because they have so many of these guys drafted. They have so many of these players throughout their system that are coming, that you now have the ability to make a trade and give up maybe a little bit more value in prospects and picks, primarily picks, to get an established player to go along with your guys that have become NHLers.
Yeah. I guess what I was thinking of more so is like forward talent, but also like forward depth, but also like once you're good, can someone else come out of
Are
the
we gonna
woodwork?
see a penalty shot right now?
Are you watching this overtime as we're
Yeah, nope.
podcasting?
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
I don't understand the penalty shot rule.
That should have been a penalty shot right there.
It's
Sorry, this is not great podcasting and great audio medium when everyone listening to this on recorded formats will have seen this already. But like, I don't know how that's not a penalty shot there. It's just going to be a power play for the Panthers. But wow, sorry.
yeah. I mean, that's a breakaway and he hooks his hand.
Yeah, and he doesn't get a shot off.
I just yeah, that's one of my least favorite applied rules. But anyway, so I think to sum it all up, I think that the Ducks are closer. I do think though that particularly with their forwards, it would go a really long way if just one or two more guys can develop out of that woodwork. And maybe that's why they've been drafting these kind of like lower ceiling, high floor, kind of bottom six ish type players in the later rounds because they're like, we just need a couple players. And I see now that the Florida Panthers have won.
Yep.
Very happy.
Yep.
Is that
they deserve it.
is that what's his name? Reinhardt?
For
I think
future
Reinhardt
duck,
scored.
future
Potential
duck,
future duck. But yeah, so anyway,
potential future former duck.
that's the spiel. That's the spiel on the playoffs. Do you want to talk trade?
Where do you want to go with the trade?
Mitch Marner.
Okay, that's where. So yeah, we've discussed the Natchez angle long enough. So I think time to move on to a different conversation.
I feel like we haven't. I feel like on the last podcast we didn't really talk that much about Marner.
Yeah.
And part of it is because we spent so much time in Natchez. And honestly, like the Natchez thing just feels a lot more viable, a lot more realistic for the Ducks.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just a lot of chatter this week about Mitch Marner potentially being on the outs in Toronto. That being said, there was a paparazzi picture of him with Craig Berube at a coffee shop. So make of that what you will. But I guess I'll start off with this as a question for you. What are you willing to trade for Mitch Marner, if at all? Is that a player that you're interested in?
Yes.
Okay.
I think Marner at this point in time, it's interesting because I think Marner has, in some ways, become underrated.
Interesting.
I think he's a player that almost has a bit too much of the Toronto experience put on him. In some ways of what has happened in the playoffs for them, that is largely kind of viewed as his fault. And people forget just how good of a hockey player he is. He's just really good at driving offense. His RAPM numbers aren't the best, but if you look at goals for per 60, it's higher than expected goals, and that's sometimes what you would expect to see just with a high-quality player. And then also just what he's able to do with driving offense on the power play. That's something the Ducks really do not have.
Yeah.
And so I just think that in some ways people forget just how good of a player Mitch Marner is. And I'm trying to look up.
He has 3 90-plus point seasons.
That was what I was about to look up was, like, the Ducks have not had a 90-point season since, what, Teemu Selanne?
Yeah.
Like,
probably.
like, this is not something, a type of scorer that the Ducks have had in a long time. And he put up 85 points in 69 games this season.
Yeah.
And I don't think he really played with Matthews that much, if I'm remembering correctly. I think Marner was typically more so with John Tavares. No, Corey Perry did not put up. Corey Perry was never over a point per game, I think.
Yeah, Corey Perry, I don't think ever got 90 points, but I could be wrong about that.
No, let me look. I don't think he did.
Yeah.
Corey Perry scored 50 goals, but I don't think. Let's see.
How wrong will you be about this?
How wrong will I be?
This looks worse on you because I wasn't.
He had. Never mind. He had 98 points. Damn,
98.
I was off. Wow.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that was his only 90-point season.
My bad there.
He never got to 90 again.
I'll take that L though.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the point is that but still they haven't had a 90-point score since the 2010-2011 season. So it's been over a decade.
Yep.
Marner is 27 and has done that 3 times. So yeah, like he's a different caliber of offensive producer than Corey Perry was. And it's really interesting looking at some of his data, like the tracking data, because he really doesn't, I don't know who his line mates were, and I'm sure we can look that up, but he was not driving like zone entries. He was not the one carrying the puck into the offensive zone, which is so fascinating because when you think about Mitch Marner, you think about him flying up the wing, carrying the puck, stick handling through defenders, and yet he wasn't doing that at a high rate. It doesn't mean that he can't do it. And also, like, I think his defensive involvement is probably a lot better than people realize. I think he kills penalties for Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, or
Yes,
he
he
has
does.
in the past. So he's a much more complete player than I think people realize. And to your earlier point, there is that kind of stink on him from Toronto from their playoff failures, but the Ducks haven't even made the playoffs. You need help getting to that point. It's not just about, oh, well, this guy hasn't done it in the playoffs. And oh, by the way, he has 50 points in 57 playoff games.
Yeah.
So it's not as if he's this like woeful playoff producer. He's actually pretty close to a point per game in the playoffs, which last I checked is pretty good. That's what he's getting paid to do. And that leads me to the next question. So
what would you give up for him?
Well, no, it's not just that. It's
Okay.
that he's 27. He is, let's see here, make sure I
He
get
has one more year.
He has one more year. His next contract is going to be significant.
Yes.
Like it's going to start with 10 and it's going to go up from there. Is that an age range that you are comfortable acquiring and giving up assets to obtain?
Here's the tough part with it is I think I mentioned this last week when talking about Natchez. You have to give up stuff to make this team better, and you deal with the cap situation later. And I think that could still apply with Marner, but it becomes much more difficult just because of his age and the term that would be associated with it. And that's the same reason why I would probably stay away from a Sam Reinhart when all is said and done. It is the term associated with his age. And so Mitch Marner, if I think he will be 28.
He's 20. He just turned 27.
He just turned 27. So the contract extension will kick in at 28. So
Yeah.
most likely it's going to be an 8-year extension that will take him to his age 34 season.
Yeah.
And so that's the tough part there. And that's the part. It's not really necessarily even about what you give up for him, because I think there are ways you make this deal work. The only way that I think the contract doesn't become as much of a worry, I guess, to me, is if you're giving up someone out of the core, because then you're in some ways taking away someone that you're going to have to pay.
But is that a good thing, though, that you're trading a core piece?
Well, let me put it, what's the best way to put this? I'm trying to think this through the best way, but yes and no, because I think Mitch Marner is who he is. We just talked about his plaudits, what he can do there, everything about that. And if Trevor Zegras, for instance, hits, is he going to be Mitch Marner? Like,
that would be the best case scenario.
And so that's, I guess, where I'm coming at from. The same thing with a Mason McTavish. If Mason McTavish hits, does he become as impactful of a player as Mitch Marner?
Unlikely. It's just like statistically unlikely.
And so realistically, when we're looking at this, right, and looking at this long-term impact for this team, and you're looking at the top forwards, and let's just say the Ducks drafted Demidov this year, right?
Yeah.
And that gives them, if they trade if that gives them 6 forwards right there for the long-term future with their young guys. And so then kind of where does Mitch Marner fit long-term on this team with those 6 guys being drafted, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it's much more palatable to trade a McTavish or a Zegras. And I know I've been kind of very much staunchly against trading Trevor Zegras, but this is the one situation where I think it makes sense because it's the same thing as an Elias Pettersson trade.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is who are you who do you have to give up? What's the price tag on Marner?
I don't know if Zegras gets you Marner as of right now.
No, not as a 1-for-1.
Not as a 1-for-1. I think McTavish might.
McTavish certainly has more trade value than Trevor Zegras at this point in time. This is like an all-time low for Zegras' trade value.
Yeah, which is why which is another reason why you don't trade him. But I think that if you're going to get a Mitch Marner, you have to think about also from the perspective of the Leafs. We talked about this a bit with the Carolina Hurricanes, but what are the Maple Leafs going to want here? Are they going to want a first-round pick? Are they going to want a prospect? Are they going to want any of those guys? Or are they going to want a more established NHL talent? Someone that may be younger but can jump into the lineup right away. And I think that that's where a Marner for McTavish trade would potentially come in. Having said that, I don't know if Verbeek does that. I don't think Verbeek would make
Well,
that trade.
but just exploring it further, though, the Leafs are in win now mode. Like they are
Yeah.
firmly trying to get over the playoff hump, and just a kind of futures laden package, kind of like what we talked about a little bit with the Natchez trade, is just not really going to do it. Hell, it might not even do it for the Hurricanes. And so I think that in any trade for Mitch Marner involving the Ducks, it's going to take one of the young guys, like one of the one player from that core, and then probably another like a veteran player would be my guess. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
is that too far? I don't know. Like, is it Vetrano plus Zegras? Like, is it something like that? I don't know. Um,
What about a Troy Terry for Mitch Marner? Pokemon Shrouded brings it up. Mohamed Zegras brought up Vetrano Oilers first and lesser prospect. That doesn't get you Mitch Marner.
I just I feel like if you're the Maple Leafs though, why would you trade Marner for Terry? You're just getting like a cheaper Marner,
Which
like
I is potentially the reason for it if
a
you're the
cheaper,
Leafs.
slightly younger Marner. And then if
I
you're the
think that I
Ducks,
think the Leafs are just trying to shake up their room.
yeah, yeah. Which
Which
Troy Terry could be a great ad for them.
yeah.
What I like about Terry in that deal is that it's like a 1-for-1 in terms of the roster fit, because it's a wing for a wing, which is why, like, even though I am higher on Zegras's ceiling than I am on McTavish's, trading Zegras, who is a wing right now, that's probably a little easier of a fit because you're taking out a wing and plugging in another wing, and you're not disturbing that whole situation.
Yeah, and
So
M brings up Leafs want to get bigger and stronger, which is fair with Bradshaw leaving as their general manager. And so that's where I think a Mason McTavish would make a lot of sense for them.
yeah, and so I guess if you're okay, so if you're in the GM chair,
We're getting a lot of pushback, by the way, on this in our
I
YouTube
mean,
chat.
we're just having the conversation. We're feeling it out. I don't think either of us has even said if we would or would not do it. Um,
I also
so
think that
if you can't listen to this conversation without freaking out, then maybe you need a chill pill. I don't know, but like we're just talking about it.
well, I also just think Mitch Marner has a little bit of it's kind of what I brought up at the very beginning. I think he's underrated at this point in terms of his impact, and people forget about just how good of a player he actually is.
So here's my question for you.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation where the Leafs are saying, okay, we're willing to listen on a package for Marner that centers around Mason McTavish, what is the maximum that you think you would need to include to make that then happen? And then secondly, would you pull the trigger on that?
I don't. So after thinking about it for a split second, I don't know if I would add much more.
But like, I
Here,
think you would have to
no.
add something more.
Here's the reason. Hear me out here. I think when you're just talking about long-term asset value, they are getting Mason McTavish for the next 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Right. And that's its hold value. And then on top of that, they're also getting him at his cap hit.
Fair.
At his current cap hit. And so they are dropping in a significant amount, or they are dropping a bunch of cap hit on the Ducks in that situation. They are getting a shit ton of cap relief, and they are getting a young forward that they can add to their group on a young deal that is going to be coming off his ELC, but is not going to be that pricey. And so when you consider the cap hit and the value associated with that from there, I think that there's probably not much more that you have to add in that trade.
Okay, I could see that. I mean, because they're getting a huge cap relief there.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're getting a guy who's gonna be a long-term like core piece for them. Can you imagine how popular Mason McTavish would be in Toronto? He's like everything that they've been made fun of as like not being, basically.
And would I do that trade? I probably would, but that's also just because I've not been the biggest fan of Mason McTavish's game. Mm-hmm. I think there is still the room for growth, and I could be eating those words. But I think Trevor Zegras is a better center than Mason McTavish. I think a center grouping of Leo Carlsson and Mason McTavish, or Leo Carlsson and Trevor Zegras, is the right way to go there. And you add Mitch Marner to your group with Cutter Gauthier, with Troy Terry, with potentially Ivan Demidov.
You have so much speed and playmaking on the wings now.
Yeah.
With Terry and Marner.
Yeah. You have so much there. And Yes, the next contract concerns me, but with moving out of Mason McTavish, there's probably going to be less of a cap bind long term.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is this. I know people love Mason McTavish, and I know people love Trevor Zegras, but can you confidently sit here today and say that either of those players will turn out to be
No.
Mitch Marner level of impact? I don't think so. I mean, I think that there's a possibility, particularly with Zegras on the offensive side. I think there's a possibility with McTavish when you factor in the overall game, but like it's just that it's a possibility. Mitch Marner is already an elite offensive player. The Ducks, as of today, do not have an established elite offensive player. And as we discussed at the beginning of the show, you kind of need those guys this time of year to get to this time of year, to get through this time of year. And so I think that I understand fans of the team being like, no way, not trading the homegrown talent. And I get that. But there is a logical case to do it
Mm-hmm.
because you're upgrading in talent and you need that blue chip talent. Now, as for my own response to that, I think that my major hangup with acquiring Mitch Marner is the contract.
Yep.
I just think that that is
I
going
agree.
to be not prohibitive because as we've been talking about a lot on this podcast, the cap is going to go up and any contract that gets signed, you have to really like you have to keep that in the back of your mind and your evaluation of how the deal is going to age. But I think that he's not necessarily the player that I want to flip one of your best trade assets to go and get. I think that it really just comes down to I like the player. I think he's great, but I'm just not necessarily sold on him as being the guy that I want to cash one of my biggest chips for. I think that that's
Well,
really what it comes down to for me.
yeah, I think that you and I are both looking at this from the perspective of um, wanting to find someone that more aligns with the cup contending window.
Yeah, it's the age. It's the age for me. Like not even like the contract is a problem, but not a big one. It's more so the age. I don't
And the
know how
term
he's
that would
going to
be
age.
associated, like the fact that he's going to be 34 at the expiration of that contract versus Natchez, if you trade for him and give him the extension, he'll be what, 32? Like
Yeah,
that 2 year difference is big because you're
yeah,
just getting 2 more years of their prime years. And I said this last episode, Natchez is a different caliber of player, though. Like he is a lower tier than a Mitch Marner in that sense. And
he is.
from that perspective, I would not trade a Trevor Zegras for Martin Natchez because I think that that is more of a lateral move. I think Marner, the difference there is that he is a higher caliber player than Natchez is. And I think that
Correct.
is what makes it more viable to trade one of your middle six, even if potentially he doesn't align with the aging window as well. But on the flip side of that, I think there is something to bringing in someone that has maybe not won in the playoffs, but won a lot of hockey games.
Yeah,
Like that is something that this Ducks team has not done, and having a guy come in that has done that and gotten teams to the playoffs, been very good, is important.
yeah. I mean, it helps when the guys have won and are also still like elite because Alex Killorn was kind of signed to be that guy, and I'm sure he's
Yeah,
helped a lot behind the scenes. But it's different when you're kind of more of like a
and
support player.
Mohamed Zegras says I agree with everything you guys are saying, but the question is, do you want Mitch Marner to be your best player? And here's the thing, he's not going to be. That's Leo Carlson.
He probably won't be in like 2 to 3 years.
I don't think he's yeah. And regardless, that's Leo Carlson, and you can still make it work with Marner on that contract.
Yeah, I mean, the thing too is like you're dropping Marner into one of the best, what could be one of the best offensive environments in the NHL for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And so that will help alleviate some of the age related decline. But my own conclusion on it is that, yeah, I think there's a good case to do it. I just don't know if I'm sold on Marner as being the guy that I want to spend that
That's
big
fair.
piece for. That's
Completely fair.
pretty. And Marner, and it's when I say Marner, it's considering who he is as a player, his age, it's everything put together. I'm just not quite sure if he's the guy.
If Marner was 2 years younger, what would you say?
Ooh, man, I would be hard pressed to then just say no because then we're basically having the Nature's conversation, but the guy is like elite. I think that at that point you kind of look like an idiot to not do that.
Yeah.
Like at that point, you're really talking yourself out of a good thing just because something else could be good down the line.
Yeah. No,
So
I agree with that completely.
yeah,
I mean, also like is he the same? I think he's the draft before Terry.
yeah. Marner,
Yeah.
they're
Or
like
is
a
he the
year
same?
apart,
Yeah.
so it
So
could be, yeah,
there is some alignment there from that perspective that could be
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Um,
It's kind of that second tier of like young veterans, basically.
Same draft is what Muhammad Zegras is saying. Thank you for that.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's that. Looks like so Marner's most likely or most used team error was mostly with Austin Matthews this past year.
Okay.
So there is that part of the conversation also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
Rory's this, or actually no. Let's get to Nattery. Then I'll kind of bring up these couple names that people are bringing up in the chat. So this episode is brought to you by 714 Tickets. So the hockey season has sadly almost gone. We are in the conference finals, but whether you're a diehard Ducks fan or you're just looking for a night of exciting sports entertainment, 714 Tickets has you covered. But here's the best part. At 714 Tickets, they're not just about hockey. They've got tickets to all of your favorite sports, concerts, and live events right at your fingertips. And the icing on the cake, they don't charge you a single dime in taxes or fees. That's right. At 714 Tickets, what you see is what you get. No surprises at checkout. And with their user-friendly mobile app, booking your tickets is a breeze. You can browse, select, and secure your seats within minutes. Shop online at 714tickets.com, call 714-TICKETS, or visit their office located right in front of Honda Center, and you can get 10% off when you shop online using the code CTP. And they have tickets to Angels games if you want to go to that this summer. Basically, any concert anywhere around you. You can find tickets at 714tickets.com. So go check them out.
Yep. Go support local business.
Yep.
I may be doing a Giants Angels game soon. So
There you go.
the rivalry, the CTP Bowl.
But so Rory had brought up two names from Philly. He brought up, what about Travis Konechny? Would you bite on him? And he had also said Joel Farabee.
Yeah, so he was saying Joel Farabee's better than Natchez, and I'm not sure what the basis for that is. Is it points based? Because like their underlying numbers are not like Natchez generates way more offense. So I'm not entirely sure that he has like a good season. He had 22 goals this year. I don't really get it. Rory must be a Flyer fan or something. And then Konechny. I mean, Konechny is a good player. I like him. I think
Yeah.
I think he'd make the Ducks better. I have no clue what Philly is thinking in terms of like, are they trying to make the playoffs next year? Is that what they're doing, or are they still embracing?
Philly's weird. I don't know what to expect from Philly.
Yeah, no, I think Travis Konechny is great. I've always
And
been
I
a fan
mean,
of his game. Not a fan of like his on ice personality and how he's trying to be like Marchand light, but
yeah.
I do like the player.
So it looks like Travis Konechny is in the final year of his contract and is a UFA at the end of it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a guy you would trade for. I think just see if you can sign him.
Well, it would be next summer that they would sign him.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
instead of spending assets to go and get him, like he's not a guy where I'm like, oh, I want to trade for him just to then be able to have the ability to extend him.
Yeah.
Unless he
Yep.
really wants like an 8-year deal, if that's like really important to him. But
Yeah.
I could see the Flyers just signing him, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's the most likely situation.
Like they're trying to make the playoffs. So yeah. Interesting, but yeah, I don't really get the Farabee thing. Konechny would be interesting, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. Any other trade related thoughts that you have that have percolated in your mind?
No, there hasn't
So
really been any other names that have popped up that have made me think, oh, maybe the Ducks would be in on that guy.
well, I mean the report that did come out from Pierre LeBrun is that the Hurricanes want a star caliber player in exchange for Martin Necas. They want someone of that ilk. And I mean, I don't know if we're necessarily even sure that Martin Necas is a star level player, just in terms of public perception. So it's kind of interesting that that's what they want. back in return, or like they want a top tier kind of player in someone's lineup. I don't really see that happening. And that was put out there by LeBron. I feel like you always have to keep in mind with insiders that they are sometimes just parroting the information that they receive, and that information may be getting put out there strategically, because we went through the exercise last podcast. Like, if you look at the comparable situations to Martin Necas, there just haven't been trades except for maybe the Kachuk trade that have yielded like star level talent in return. So
Yeah.
I see that as kind of a bunch of hogwash. Also, are we sure it's not Martin Necas?
I have no clue.
I was listening to Carolina radio this week, and they were calling him Martin Necas.
Do we think that Lucas Dostal and Radko Gudas were putting in the good word for Anaheim?
Maybe they were doing that. Those Czech boys, real close
in the celebration.
They stay really tight. So maybe.
I mean, it sounds like Dostal and Gudas are really tight. So yeah, that would make sense. You know?
Okay. Well, I don't really have any other trade thoughts. So should we do questions?
Yeah. So we're going to start with our Patreon exclusive Discord. Go to patreon.com/crashspawn. With that, at the $2 tier, you get access to our Discord. Probably the best place to talk hockey, Ducks hockey on the internet, in my opinion. And with that, you get access to our podcast question channel, where you get your questions asked and answered first. So we always start there. So we got this one from Medic saying, what direction would you go as the GM of the Minnesota Wild? What do you think their window to compete is?
When are the Suter and Parise contracts up? And that is your...
a while.
That is your answer.
Did you know that we're in the Tuesday Night Pod Wars? I didn't realize this till Lou mentioned this right now, but Lap is going also right now. Fantastic show. Go check them out.
Yeah, go check out Late Arrivals if you want additional Ducks banter.
Yes.
But yeah. But tune into us, though, when we're competing for airtime.
Yeah, this is a ratings war. I will find a way to get their script and spoil it for you ahead of time and let you know when Mick Foley's winning the WWE title.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I was going to Cap Friendly to look up that up for the Minnesota Wild also right now. Okay. Let's see. 28-29 is the final year of their cap hit.
What's the combined cap hit?
This is the last year of a big cap hit.
Oh, okay.
It is 7.37 this year, and the next 4 years it's 833K for each of them. So they have 14.7 mil tied up in those two next season.
Oh my!
That's more than Mitch Marner.
That's so insane. But then it drops off after that.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, are the Wild good? I feel like they're not.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like you should just keep building through the draft if you're the Wild.
Yeah.
This is probably the most we've discussed the Wild ever on this podcast.
Yeah. Shake and Wink said, Felix, could you list out the positives and negatives of the prospects that you've done videos on for our Patreon? By the way, Felix has put out,
check it out.
How many videos now?
6 + 4 + 2, so 12.
Felix has put out 12 videos. Like he just said, 6 of them on Levshinov, 4 of them on Lindstrom, 2 of them on Salayev. On our Patreon, go to patreon.com/crashspawn at the $7.50 tier, which you get to our bonus episodes and all those videos. You get to see breakdowns of these players shift by shift for 6 different games. Each of those videos are different games, and you can know more about these players than probably anyone else in Ducks fandom does if you watch these videos. So go check it out.
Yes, I appreciate the plug. Well, Levshinov, positive, fantastic puck mover, great offensive mind, loves to join the rush, good size, right shot, so valuable position. Negative is that his awareness sometimes is not the best, both with the puck and without the puck. And sometimes he's been accused of being bad defensively. Those are the positives and negatives. Lindstrom, positive is that he's 6'4", and man, am I turning into an old-time scout? Because I feel like I talk about size a lot.
You're listing size.
But he's 6'4". He can skate really, really well. He's a great puck handler. He can shoot. He's extremely aggressive. He loves to knock people over along the boards and win net front battles. He's the total package, honestly. The downside is that he had a back injury this season, which we still don't know much about. So he missed half the year. And the other downside is that there's quibbles about his hockey sense. How well does he read the game? How much does he truly elevate his line mates? I don't know if I buy into all that, but those are the negatives. And then finally, Anton Salayev. I've only watched 2 games, but the positives are that he's one of the best skaters that you'll ever see. Like he at 17 years old, at 6'7", playing in the KHL, he is skating incredibly and defending incredibly. The downside is that he's not really the very good puck mover right now and doesn't really bring any offense. But they all have their very intriguing qualities for sure.
Yeah. And I think on that point, something that you and I have talked about a bit, even throwing Demidov into this grouping, I don't think there's a bad call.
No, I agree with that.
Like, I know that there are going to be people in our chat right now that are very much take Demidov and that's it. There's very much arguments for any of these players to be taken at 3rd overall with whoever of those players is still available.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're getting some just atrocious takes in the chat right now. I don't know what's going on tonight.
Yeah,
but people are sucking back Grandpa's cough medicine.
Trust the Verplan Drumbanger says, now that the World Championships have ended, how much stock should we be taking player performances into consideration for next season, i.e. Zegras and Dostal?
So I think that's a fair question. But I think, so here's where I think it's coming from. Zegras did not have a good tournament. Dostal had a great tournament. And honestly, like at the end of the day, it's a good sign if you can perform in a pressure-packed environment. But it's still a small sample. And we were talking about this in the Patreon pod last night, but like we've seen Lukas Dostal have great stretches in the NHL already. We kind of already know he can do that. And then Trevor Zegras, we've seen him have dry stretches in the NHL and we've seen him play great through it and bounce back from it. So like I just don't really put much of any stock at all into that.
Yeah.
It's like a small data point.
Yep. Small tournaments, I don't really put a whole lot into it. Give me a larger sample to dig my teeth into. And Zegras, quite frankly, didn't have that.
But great for Dostal though. Like truly to win in your home country like that, a team that was excluded from the Four Nations Cup, like it's actually really, really cool. But yeah, and then as for USA, like they just completely like blundered. Like they were just, I don't know what happened to that team, but on talent, they should have been in that gold medal game. So
Yep. Brad said 2 questions. Which pair has the higher ceiling, Smith Celebrini or McTavish Carlson?
People are not going to like my answer. So I'll let you answer.
Thanks. Smith Celebrini.
I agree with you. And I mean, you know who's the weak link in that?
It's Mason McTavish.
It's the guy that people don't want to trade for Mitch Marner.
Let's put Mason McTavish out of that. Let's say it's Demidov, Carlson, Smith, Celebrini.
Ooh.
Because that is the same draft, so that's a bit better.
Okay. Yes, you're right. Man, I think I might call it I think it's probably edge to the Ducks. Maybe a tie, but probably edge to the Ducks.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Because I think Carlson and Celebrini are on a similar wavelength. And I think Demidov and Smith are on a similar wavelength.
I think Celebrini might be I think I'd have Celebrini above Carlson personally. Like I think if Carlson's in this draft, he still goes second.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't thought that through too much. I just know they're kind of very similar.
Celebrini is just a way better skater.
That's
kind of where the cookie crumbles for me. But like if you said you preferred Carlson, I wouldn't I wouldn't try to attack you as
I don't know
with people these days in these debates.
I don't know Celebrini's game well enough to state that. So maybe there's some hopium, whatever it is on that. But I would say they're somewhat similar. And so also the other question, from least to most likely, who's a Duck the next time this team is in the playoffs? Fowler, Gibson, Lacombe, Strome, Vetrano, out of these players. So
least likely is probably Vetrano.
Okay.
Next least likely,
Fowler, Gibson, Lacombe, Strome.
I'll say Lacombe, just because I think he might get traded.
Okay.
I know it doesn't make a ton of sense. After that, I'm going to say Fowler, because he only has 2 years left.
Okay.
After that, I'm going to say.
Are you just gonna go contract length?
I mean, honestly, it's a big part of it. And then I'll go Strome and Gibson. I'm just gonna go down the line contract term.
So Strome is the most likely.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Did I just sort by contract term and call it a day?
I would probably go. I'll go Lacombe most likely. I'll put him most likely. Then I'll follow suit on what you said.
Okay.
Trust the Verplan Drumbanger said, how many players from the youth core, Zegras, McTavish, Carlson, Zellweger, Minchikov, Gauthier, Lacombe, will break out next year, if any?
I think Zegras has a breakout season.
Zegras has a breakout season. I think for all of the, I wouldn't say shitting on, because I don't think that's the right way to put it. All of the criticism that we've had of McTavish throughout the season, throughout this podcast, I think he is going to come out a better player next season. Like, I think he's going to have a good offseason. I think he's going to come out a better player next year.
Are we talking about McTavish?
It's out of all these players: Zegras, McTavish, Carlson, Zellweger, Minchikov, Gauthier, Lacombe.
Okay. No, but who are you talking about just now?
McTavish.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, no, yeah, I think McTavish
he could really break out. He could really break out.
Yeah. Like, I genuinely think probably all those guys, just because there's going to be more development in their game. Like, there's going to be more development. There's going to be bounces. Maybe Cutter Gauthier is the only one because this is kind of a starting point. So maybe he underwhelmed slightly for his first season. But, yeah. I mean, age-wise, he's going to be similar to these guys. Like,
well, also Zellweger. I mean, it would be his first full season.
Yeah.
So, and also, like, the thing with Carlson is he didn't really have an offseason last year. So he's going to have a full offseason this year to really develop and hopefully hit the ground running.
Yeah, and on McTavish, there's a little bit of pushback, kind of him being having grit and toughness that other guys don't have. The big issue I have with McTavish is he doesn't really actually do that much. Like, he gets lost in the defensive zone, and it's more so just kind of he tries to throw hits every once in a while on the forecheck, but
he's not that physical.
He's not that physical. He's not that much of like a gritty player in that essence, outside of like looking to go into a scrum or something like that. He has gotten lost in the defensive zone a lot. Like, there's a lot of things that do need to get cleaned up in his game. Where he thrived this past year is actually kind of the antithesis of that point. He thrived offensively and creating chances in transition where you have to have skill and have that type of player. That is exactly what he did well this year. And so he needs to be able to develop those other parts of his game.
I would agree. I think that where you see his grit is like along the boards. Like when he's protecting the puck, it's like a game for him.
Yeah.
Like he really wants to protect it at all costs.
Yep. Malarkey said, do you see any similarities between Barkov's and Carlson's abilities?
Huh. I mean, I wasn't Barkov like a comparison for Carlson last year?
I think so, yeah.
Like him and Kopitar were the names that kept coming up. I think Carlson might be a better skater. Like a faster skater, at least, maybe not a better skater. But I think I do see similarities, yes. But I think Carlson's a different player, though.
Yeah. Shake Week said, does Jake listen to Felix's podcast prospect breakdowns? I've started the very first Levshinov one. I've been busy lately.
I recommend for folks to go in chronological order.
That is what I've started.
I them up as a narrative.
Yeah, that's where I've started. I'm busy.
Also, just to let people know, these aren't really like breakdowns. I'm literally just watching the game and I interject with commentary like throughout it. So like it's as if you were going and just looking up a shift by shift video and just watching it, except with added commentary. So
yeah. But no, I have started the first one and that is it. I need to make time and sit down and watch them. My time has been few and far between. I'll go with that.
You don't have 6 hours to devote?
Don't have 6 hours. Having a child takes up time. Starting a new job takes up time. Trying to fill in all the little time and still have time to talk to you on this podcast and have some fun here.
I see how it is.
Yeah. Trust the Verplan Drumbanger said, does Celebrini go second overall if he was in the Bedard draft and not in his own?
Yeah, he would go second with Bedard for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then we got a couple of questions on Twitter. So let me get there very quickly. And then we'll get to Twitch and YouTube. So Twitch and YouTube, I know you guys are all there. If you want to start throwing questions, then go for it. probably a bit better to wait till we get to the whole rigmarole. So Hockey South says, welcome to summer. Hope you had an awesome holiday weekend. What's the largest contract you can envision for Beak handing out this summer? And does Felix take the over/under overall value AAV? Your choice. I'll do AAV. I think the largest contract I could see him handing out is 10 million.
Wow, to Sam Reinhart.
That would be the largest. I don't think he would give out the Marner extension.
So I go over
Do you
under on
go
that.
over or under?
Oh, I go under.
Well,
I'm not going
here's
over that.
Here's the tough part with over under. That's the largest I could envision. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's necessary. Like, I think the largest I could see him actually doing is 8.5 on a Natchez extension.
Okay.
Over under.
I just don't think they're going to get Reinhardt. So
Okay.
I
Over
don't even
under
know
on
if they're
8.5.
over under an 8.5. I would go under.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know if they're going to give out any contracts necessarily this summer. Or they're going to give out two.
I think they
sorry.
are. It's just not going to be big contracts. It's just going to be like kind of depth players.
Yeah. Troy Terry's confidence said, question for the pod. Are the Ducks the new Ryan Miller's Buffalo? Will the pain never end?
I feel like the Buffalo Sabres are still that. Like they haven't like what are they in a 13-year playoff slump, something like that?
Yeah.
So no, that title is still held by the Sabres. And I do think though that we keep saying it, but like next year, this upcoming year is really the year to break the cycle because another shitty year it's gonna be hard to break that pattern at some point.
Yeah. Trevor Zebras asked us, if you were Greg Cronin, what does your first power play unit look like next year? I'll leave that for you.
Oh, Zegras on the left wing, on the left flank, left face-off circle. Right wing, Cutter Gauthier or Mason McTavish, doesn't matter, but Gauthier there. Top of the circle, or at the point, I'll go with Pavel Minchukov. Man in the middle, the bumper spot, I will go with Mason McTavish. And then in front, I'll go Killorn. But you can kind of flip those two.
Who was on the right wing or right half board? Okay.
Cutter. Yeah.
So no Troy Terry on the first unit.
I just don't think Troy Terry is a good power play guy.
That's fair.
That's been my take for a long time.
I was just asking that clip for that clarification.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, maybe on the second unit, but not on the first unit.
And then he said, sorry if this is a repetitive question. I know you guys have probably been asked this, but if the Ducks were to take Levshunov, what do you think of his overall defensive game?
I don't like, I've seen people say that it's like terrible and it's this huge red flag. I don't share those concerns. I think with him, it's just like a mental thing where he just makes mental mistakes, but I think he has the physical tools and the mental tools to be a great defender because he's a genius with the puck. So he's clearly got the hockey sense. He's just got to apply it on the other end.
Really quickly, you left Leo Carlsson off your power play unit also.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Where would I put him in that though?
Would you go front net and take off Killorn?
No, you know what? Let's put Leo on the power play too with
Troy Terry. Okay.
Honestly, like my thing with Leo Carlsson is like it's just an awkward fit. Like I just don't really know. I think it's a waste of his talent in the net front. I think maybe the bumper, but I think there's better fits for that. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe you just bet on talent. But I just like Mason McTavish's skill set in that restrained area better. And I like that. And I like Alex Killorn's skill set better in that restrained area. Like power play to me is so much more about fit and particular skill sets. And so like if I were to put Leo on that power play, like maybe I flip him and Zegras. But to me, you have to have Trevor Zegras in the first power play unit. Like you can't even question that. So
Zegras defender said Salayev seems to be rising and Demidov falling. How would you feel about that pick regardless of what Chicago does?
Salayev?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on him right now because I see the defensive upside and I think he would be great. Like he would be a great fit because he just gives them a defenseman that they just don't have. But I really am skeptical about the puck moving. And it's like, if you're not a good puck mover in a slower league with bigger ice, I'm a little worried about how that's going to translate on a smaller rink in a faster league. But maybe he could develop that.
Yep. And then Luis Alberto Johansson said, has GM Pat Verbeek interviewed any coaches for the 2 assistant openings yet? Unclear. Unknown.
Nothing reported.
Nothing reported. All right. Now we are going to look to Twitch and YouTube. So
Are
if you
people
were
saying
in there,
Killorn's not a power play guy in our chat?
yeah, he was literally he was brought in to be on the power play.
People have just like bumped their head tonight and just like forgotten things. That's
Yeah,
okay.
That is why he was brought in, was to be on the power play. That is why he will be there.
People just hit their heads sometimes. It happens.
So start throwing your questions into the chat if you want us to answer them. Please put question at the front of them to make my life a little bit easier here. But if you are listening to this on your favorite podcast services, go to twitch.tv/crashpond, where if you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month, and it does help out more than you could imagine. You just have to hit that subscribe button, and you help us out. Or if you prefer YouTube, go to youtube.com/crashthepond, and you can subscribe to our channels, like our videos, and if you have a YouTube account, yes, I know you all do, you can do that completely free to you. And so let's get a little bit of a like spike right now. So Pokemon Shrouded in our Twitch chat said, what teams look to rebuild for the McKenna lottery in 2026?
2026? Oh, are the Flames a team for that?
Probably. Are the Leafs a team for that?
No, they're stuck with Matthews, and stuck is like not a bad thing. Are we sure the Kraken are out of this phase by then?
No.
I think the Kraken are there. The Bruins might be there by that point, although that's might just be wishful thinking on my part. The Blues, the Islanders, although the Islanders are just committed to being a mediocre team, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll go Flames.
Or
just Blackhawks.
Yeah.
The Blackhawks are going to suck for a while.
They're going to be bad. Maybe the Sharks even.
Yeah, like Sharks, Columbus, and Chicago are like nowhere near out of their rebuilds. So.
Yeah. All right. The first question I can really see in YouTube, and so if there were other ones before this, please just repost it. Muhammad Zigra said, question, just to get a full understanding, what do you guys see McTavish being at his peak? Do you see him being a high-end second-line center?
Yeah.
Or do you not see him? Do you not see him being a high-end second-line center? No, I think that's what we see him as. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to be a guy that I think he's going to be praised for his defensive work, but that's not actually the strength of his game.
The highlight should be the offense. Yeah,
the highlight should be the offense. I think that because of him being as dumb as this sounds, a good old Canadian boy that grows a big beard and can play a physical game, that's kind of going to get the focus put on it, and it's going to overlook exactly actually what he does well to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And question, do you think the Ducks should look to fill the third line center role?
I think they already have a third line center. Ryan Strome.
Okay, I was gonna say, are you going with Zegras? Are you going with Strome? Are you going with Lundestrom?
They already have 9 forwards basically for their top 9.
Yeah.
So, but maybe they do anyway.
Yeah. Yep. All right. And then Mike Cosley said question, and it's not really a question, but still I'll give him a shout out. He said no Marner, and also added Ludwig Smith, who have been on very much anti-Mitch Marner train in our YouTube chat tonight. And I just have to say, I don't get it. I don't get why people are this anti-Mitch Marner. That's it.
I think it's just trolling. That's okay. Potentially.
Rory said, question, when do the Ducks rebrand? Hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon. Ray Gonzalez said, question, what team emerging from or has emerged from a rebuild that would be the most resemble the Ducks' future trajectory? Vancouver, Detroit, etc. I don't think either of those teams.
No, because none of them had as much young talent as the Ducks currently do.
I mean, maybe like the late 2010 Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, I think it would have to be something like that, like one of those dynasty teams.
Like maybe the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like the Ducks are in a very good. I mean, the Colorado Avalanche fit it well.
Like, yeah, actually, Avalanche might be a good one. Yeah.
And I mean, that kind of feels like what the Ducks, I mean, hell, the Ducks broadcast has said this, that's what a rebuild should look like. Yeah. So, like, the fact that the Ducks broadcast, which, for those that don't know, they are employees of the Ducks organization. For them to be saying that kind of means something there. And the fact that the Ducks went out and hired the AHL coach from the Avalanche organization. That feels like something the Ducks are trying to mimic.
Correct.
With what they're doing here. Rory said, question to the Ducks offer sheet Quinton Byfield from the Kings. That's juicy.
I think that's
it's not going to
joke.
happen.
Yeah. I think that's
not going to
joke.
happen.
Yeah.
It would be juicy if it happened.
Yeah.
By the way, have you seen, now I'm going on a tangent, but it's the off season. Have you seen the ESPN 30 for 30 about Joe Sakic?
No, I haven't.
Can I spoil it for you at all?
Wait, so you have time to watch that?
Yeah, I watched it in bed with my wife when we wanted to watch something together, and she agreed to watch it.
Hold on. You're not
watching. Am I supposed to? Am I supposed to get put on Levshinov videos in bed as we're trying to wind down?
Yeah,
and she's knitting.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say? No, don't spoil it. In the off chance I do watch it.
Okay, it was fine. It's worth watching. I won't spoil it now, but it's just about offer sheets more or less. Okay. Mohamed Zegras said, question, move Strome to the fourth line and find a real third line center.
Ideally, yes, but ideally.
Yeah. Let's see. Christian Bautista said, question, do you think the disrespect that the coaches showed Zegras in the World Hockey Tournament with low playing time will light a fire under him and get him in the gym and come in hot next season?
I did not watch a second of that tournament, so I cannot say. But I'm sure Zegras is plenty motivated as it is, so yeah. I'm not too worried about that.
Yep. Pokemon Shrouded said, in your guys' opinion, who is the best coach not in the NHL right now?
I don't have an opinion because I don't really keep tabs on that, but I know that everyone talks about David Carl, who is the coach for, I believe, Denver University in the NCAA. His name just comes up over and over and over, so I'll just throw his name out there. I think college hockey actually has a lot of good coaches.
I think European hockey also does.
Yeah, but I'll go David Carl just because that's a name that I hear a lot.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really know. Best coach not. I mean, maybe Bruce Boudreau.
Oh yeah, if we're counting like NHL coaches that are on the sideline.
He just said not in the NHL.
That's fair. Okay, then yeah, Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah, Bruce Boudreau. Claude Julien?
Yeah, but I think he's done. I don't think he's coming back. Although you could say the same about Boudreau.
Mike Babcock? That's a joke.
We're not talking about him.
That was a joke, just to be clear. Hayes Clark said, question, if you guys don't think that we're going to give out $8 million, who do you think is most likely, or if you guys don't think that we're going to give out $8 million, who do you think is most likely for a top six forward, trade, free agency, or who would you put on your list aside from Natchez?
Can you repeat that in a way that I can comprehend?
Who do you think is most likely for the Ducks to go out and get for a top six forward position?
I mean, I think Natchez is the top of the trade list right now because we've talked about him so much. But outside of that, I don't know. I honestly haven't gone through the list, so I can't say.
The actual UFA list is kind of
isn't it thin?
It's kind of thin. I mean, it's Reinhardt's kind of the only one.
Yeah, so I think it's either a big swing or close to nothing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you like Jonathan Marchessault. You've brought him up before.
I think he could be a solid pickup.
Yeah, I mean, I think David Perron. Yeah, he's a UFA. Bring him back.
Is David Perron going to be playing another season?
I think so. I mean, he had 47 points this season.
I mean, I would take David Perron, and I don't think he's a top six forward.
He's 36 years old, so you're getting him for probably a 1 to 2 year deal at most.
Yeah.
He could be a good veteran piece.
Mohamed Zegras said, how many spots do you think the Ducks move up in the standings?
Well, they were 30th this year? Yeah. So let's go with 21st. 9 spots.
I'm not going to give an answer.
I mean, this is literally just me spitballing.
I'm not going to give an answer.
Do the Ducks bring Adam Henrique home? UFA?
No.
Anthony Mantha?
No, I don't
History
think so.
with Verbeek?
I don't think so.
Tyler Bertuzzi?
No.
Toivo Teravainen?
Teravainen, I could get down with.
Jason Zucker?
Teravainen might also work from the perspective of what the Ducks are trying to build with how they play.
Yeah. Elias Lindholm, center.
They're not going to spend what it takes to get Elias Lindholm.
What's he going to cost? Like 8?
He's also not going to want to come to the Ducks, I think.
Why not? They're Swedes. I mean, I think he's going to Boston. I feel like that's Tyler Toffoli.
Tyler Toffoli would be a good shout.
Anthony Beauvillier.
No.
Joe Pavelski.
He'll stay in Dallas.
Matt Duchene.
Matt Duchene, sign me up for some Matt Duchene.
His price tag has gone up, though.
It's gone. Like, the time to sign him was last year, but he was not going to a rebuilding team.
Yeah. Interesting. There's a lot of names, but you see the kind of tier of player, though. It's not anyone that's going to really, like, fundamentally change.
Is Matt
your
Duchene
team.
right-handed?
No.
Damn.
He's a lefty.
I was going to say, that is someone I should have been on right away when discussing if he was right-handed.
Daniel Sprong, bring him home. He is right-handed.
He is right-handed.
He is just not a Verbeek player.
He is not a Verbeek player.
He's like the opposite of a Verbeek player.
Yeah. Pokemon Trial saying, yeah, Duchene's going to stay with Dallas. Yeah, most likely he does. I agree there.
Sean Monahan,
by the sounds of it, Winnipeg wants to keep him.
Yeah. Well, they spent a first-round pick to get rid of him. No, sorry, that was Calgary. Yeah, they spent a first-round pick to get him, so they probably want to keep him.
Would you bring back Andre Kasha?
So, I kind of don't want Andre Kasha to be playing NHL hockey anymore. Like, just from a humane perspective, I'm assuming he's been cleared and whatnot, but the amount of concussions that dude has already had at a young age, like he's not even 30, I don't know if I want him to play anymore. Like, I want him to play because I want him to live his life, but I also don't want him to experience more head trauma. I'm very torn on that one.
If he were to come back to the NHL, would you want it to be on the Ducks?
I mean, he'd be a great fit for the Ducks. They need energy in their bottom six.
Yeah.
Like, I would be all about that, but I would feel very icky about it.
It would make a lot of sense with how Verbeek views the game to have Andre Kasha.
Yakov Trenin?
No. Oh.
Jordan Martinook.
One sec. Let me look up this guy's numbers just to see. I'm
Cal
curious
Clutterbuck?
Here. No. Okay, they're not that great. But here's the name that was mentioned on 32 Thoughts yesterday.
Mm-hmm. That
Tampa could be looking to move Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah, no, that's enough for me.
Okay.
What about Kyler Yamamoto?
Are you just reading out?
Oh, he's an RFA. I'm not even looking at their expiry status. Oh, that's
how
really
many
good.
RFAs did you just name?
How many times we speculated Thomas Tatar to Anaheim?
I mean,
he's a UFA yet again.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Yeah, they've had multiple chances. What about this name?
Rooch is asking about Tanner Jeannot, and no. That's not taking a swing. That's like getting a bad player.
That's like bunting. That's like bunting and missing.
Yeah, Tanner. Like, I could see Tanner Jeannot being a good fit for like a fourth line role, but here's the issue: giving up assets for Tanner Jeannot when you can probably find a guy that can do that on the free agent market. That's the issue. There is you don't need to be giving up assets for someone like that. Jordan Martinook is a good one.
Yeah, I think Martinook would actually be a sensible bottom six addition.
Yeah.
What about Max Jones? Just bring Max Jones back. No?
We're in the weird part of this podcast.
Cole Gutman? Oh, he's RFA.
We have one shit show or we have two shit show questions. Shall we now call it the Felix Game Day breakdowns? I don't know if that's necessarily a shit show question.
I don't know if I want to be associated with that.
Yeah. Appa said, name one I think he meant beacon, but he wrote bacon. One beacon of hope in your life right now.
You know why he said that? Because Lou wrote that the Panthers are a beacon of hope, and then corrected it to beacon of hope.
Got it.
Ducking everyone.
Got it. Well, some center cut bacon. That's my hope.
A beacon of hope is the draft. Excited for the draft. The draft is all about hope. It's all about potential.
It's the hope that kills you.
Okay. Wow.
That is
That
that.
got that got dark.
It's a Ted Lasso line.
Oh, well, that's why we don't care. Have you heard of the
Wow.
movie? Oh, I don't. Why am I forgetting the name? It's basically Ted Lasso. If Ted Lasso was good, it's about the American Samoa team.
What?
It's actually based on a true story. It's an American. It's a U.S. soccer coach that goes over to American Samoa to coach their national team, which had never won. They had lost a game like 31
Oh,
to nothing.
isn't Taika Waititi in this?
Yes, you should
That's the
watch
only way
that.
I know it.
You would enjoy that. I watched it and I enjoyed it.
Brandon Pineda, who's been a longtime listener of ours, has this Twitch chat that I want to read just to give him a shout out, saying, I didn't get to listen to most of this, unfortunately, but I just want to say that Salayev has such a unique set of skills, physical gifts, that I think he's worth the risk on his stick handling. We have several amazing puck handling defensemen that have having a guy that can skate like that at 6'7" with excellent defensive instincts seems like a spectacular complementary piece to this group. He will just need near support more than other decor.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad take. Like, I think there's a perfectly plausible argument for Salayev. I'm not going to push back on that at all. Like, me personally, I'm just not sure about him yet, but maybe I will be. Maybe I'll get to that point.
Yep.
I see it. I see the vision.
All right.
Andreas Janssen?
I think that Andreas Janssen could be a solid.
I'm on page 7 of 13 of this list. And the fact that I got any sort of reaction is actually pretty impressive.
I have no idea what he did this last year. That's just a name to me, I guess.
Tyler Mott?
What did Andreas...
He was like once an analytics darling, which I feel like is why you...
100%.
Dakota Joshua.
Andreas Janssen did not play this season. Was he hurt?
Was he in the AHL?
Johnson.
He might have been the AHL.
Let's see. What's his hockey DB got for him? He was back in Sweden this year.
What about...
There that goes. So never mind there.
What about Dakota Joshua?
He's going to cost too much.
He's going to cost a lot for a career year for a bottom 6 guy. That's like the exact worst time to sign a player.
Why is Lou in our Twitch chat right now when he's recording an episode?
Good on him. We encourage him to sabotage his own podcast.
Yeah, that's fair. Give me the script. Give me the script so when we're going head to head, we can win the ratings war.
Sam Gagne? I'm now getting into the territory
I think
of guys
it's time
who played...
to just... You legitimately read a guy that
Connor
is
Brown.
in
Connor
Sweden.
Connor Brown.
No.
He played 40 games.
No.
Justin Bailey.
No. No.
You don't even know who that is.
No, I don't.
He plays for the Sharks.
Oh, I thought he was... I don't know why that name sounds like an Islanders player to me.
Well, they have a... who's the other Bailey? They have a Bailey.
That might be why.
I haven't played Puck Doku in a while, so I'm a little rusty. What about Brett Leeson? Could you sign Brett Leeson back?
What if they signed Derek Grant?
No. We're only considering NHL players.
I mean, you did bring up Andreas Janssen.
Corey Perry is a UFA.
I don't know if he might retire.
Part of me is just doing this so that next time we get asked a question, I have like a Rolodex in my head.
Mitchell comes in with a first-time chat. Thoughts on bringing in Matt Roy?
That is a name that has been bandied about by Patrick of the Hockey News. I don't know. Am I like yes, he's a right shot D. He's a veteran. He has decent stats. How much would he cost though? That's what I need to know. Are you gonna chime in or
I'm letting you go. My brain is mush right now. We're an hour 15 in because you just kept going there.
Okay. Well, I want to answer the question. I want to do it justice.
Well, I'm letting you answer it.
I care about justice.
There you go.
Let's see. Matt Roy. What is his profile looking like?
He's a UFA, right?
He's a UFA. He's a right shot D. He skates pretty well. Decent puck mover. Yeah, man.
Mitchell says projected like $5.5 million.
Some of his tracking data is really bad. Like he's actually not good at defending his own blue line, and he's been tracked for almost 400 minutes, which is quite a bit. Um, that might be a no for me. Although 5.5 mil is pretty reasonable,
Yeah,
but
especially
the stats for him, I feel like he's an eye test versus stats guy.
his underlying metrics are very good.
Oh, really?
Very, very good.
Well, I don't know about very, very good. They're solid.
He's almost at he's
Defensively, he's not great.
defensively not great, offensively good.
Yeah, but like in the wash, he's like fine,
But I think
good to fine.
to get that at 5.5 mil,
It'd be good value.
it'd be very good value. I'm on board.
This is why you should chime in instead of just let me ramble. Instead of saying wrong things.
I gave you the or. I brought you up for a breath of air.
I don't know what that was in reference to.
I don't know.
Okay.
All right, let's get out of here.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We're going to keep these going. But now it's time for you to leave our veranda, our backyard barbecue,
Our poolside.
And go home and go home to your merry ways. But if you want to support this podcast, there's a few really easy ways for you to do that. Number one, we've talked about it a bunch, but patreon.com/crashthepond. This is probably the best value time of the year. $2 a month, get access to the patrons only Discord, where you're going to be able to keep well up to date on everything that's going on with the Ducks. Plenty of conversation there going on about the draft around the clock, basically. There was a chat about it last night at like 12:30 a.m. How do I know? Because I was there. But for $7.50 a month, you also get access on top of that to 2 bonus podcasts. We just did one last night, more Ducks talk, and the breakdown videos that we've already talked a bunch about. You can also leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. And we have a new review this week.
I'm reading it. Sorry.
I was assuming you were looking it up.
I do. I have it up right now.
Yes.
It's from, just assumed
read that
you would.
puppy. Read that puppy.
Hammock End gave us 5 stars and said, best Ducks pod. Excellent podcast, informative and insightful, and always entertaining. The chat on YouTube by other Ducks fans during the pod is also entertaining.
Yeah, the chat was a little unhinged tonight, but it was entertaining.
A little bit unhinged, a little bit chaotic.
But that's fine. It's off-season mode. There's no rules. But yeah, we really appreciate the love. Hammock, thank you so much for that. And also, if you're listening and you have not left us a review yet, please do so. It takes just a couple seconds. I mean, you don't really have to say much, but it goes a long way for us, and we love hearing from you guys. So please go and do that. You can also subscribe to us on Spotify. You can leave us feedback there. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Go check out our website, crashthepond.com, and follow us on Twitter/X. And on that note, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Talk to you in a week.
Bye. You can all take your drinks, but you got to get out of here.